Hello, this is Max Drake. I wanted to talk about file management on your computer. I did a previous productivity video on Drop It, where you can actually get a file of a specific type, and when you actually get a file of like it has a .txt extension or something like that, and you drag it onto a specific point on your screen, it will then go and move that file into a particular directory depending on what rules you've actually set up. So a lot of these sorts of things end up doing, there's a few tools around that do that sort of thing, but basically underneath it all, it's actually just using a couple of very basic DOS commands. So the DOS commands are like saying move, and we're saying anything here with a .xls. So any file, whatever name you've got, 12344, or the sky is blue, or the sky is green .xls, it will take all of those, any of those names. If those names, those files with those names are in that particular folder called downloads, we will go and move them. And if there's any other ones with a .xls extension, we're just going to move them into this new subdirectory called 0.xl. Now I'm giving the specific path from the C drive all the way down. So this is an absolute path rather than saying take them from here and go and put them in the subdirectory here. I'm saying take them from the absolute path and put them in this absolute path to that folder through there. So that's taking the Excel and the CSV files. I'm taking the PDF ones and putting them into the PDF file. I'm taking text and document ones and putting them into a doc folder. I'm taking my auto hotkey scripts and I'm putting them here. And I'm taking my HTML, CSS, JavaScript, anything to do with web page, and putting one into there. And then, so that's what that one's doing. So all it's doing is just saying, if you find a file type of this type in this area, go and move them here. So the area that we're working with is downloads. Now I'm very sloppy. I just let everything, because most of the stuff I use an awful lot of files and programs and things and everything, which I get download off the browser. So I bring them into my downloads folder, and that starts building up and cluttering up. One of the ones that I used to do before was I used to have a massive amount of images, because I'd take an awful lot of screenshots. So I've since made the habit of creating another subdirectory within the downloads directory called screenshots. So as soon as I take a screenshot, it puts the files into there. So I know that I'm keeping all of my image files away from everybody else. So because I've got an awful lot of those, they get a bit messy. Now I did have a script. I used this thing called Workshop, Fibuti Automation Workshop. There's a video on my channel which talks about it on the playlist. And that, on the start of the computer, every time I reboot my computer, it goes into my screenshots directory, takes all of the JPEGs and moves them into the screenshots plus 1 day. Now the reason why I don't delete them straight away is that I suddenly think, oh, there's an image in there I want. So I might want it, a day or 2 days later. And if I haven't used them by then, the next time I reboot my computer up, as it's doing the shutdown, it goes into the screenshots plus 1 day and deletes all the files from there. So that means but this is one of the problems that I actually have. That is automated to actually happen on a reboot. So when I shut the computer down completely and restart it. The problem is I either don't do a restart for maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks, or I've got a buggy program where I'm rebooting 3 or 4 times a day. So that it's ended up, I've suddenly lost a few little things that I found a little bit naggy. But I do find that I ended up suddenly thinking I need to order out. And just recently I ended up with actually having to tidy up my downloads and tidy up my files and my directories as to where everything actually happens through there. So what I started to do was I suddenly thought, well, what other methods can I do this? And I came across the fact that you can actually just write a batch file. Now, a batch file is a .bat file. And it's similar, and DOS or your computer will read it like a exe file. It will run that file. So as long as you actually have the right command, so it's like running a command inside here. So if I say, I can't actually think of any at the moment, but if I just go cd /, it takes me back to the C drive. And this is a bit of a nuisance if you want to try and get into subdirectories or something like that. But to a certain extent, if you type something like move a file from here to here, and you actually have to type in all this long string of stuff, that can get very tedious. But if you've actually just got a little file that's already got all of that set up, then you just run the file and it does it automatically. So if there's specific files, so you actually say copy all the files, but move, or specifically move file Fred the tree, and move that one across there, it will always move that file. So if you're working in a particular directory and you want a specific file to move through there, or you have a whole lot which is a certain project code, so you can go Fred star. So anything beginning with Fred, or that could be a project code number, which might be, of course, 123. Then anything after that, which is an XLS and it's in that downloads folder, it'll move them across into that other directory through there. You can then suddenly say, well, anything with a backup thing or something like that, like if it's a .bak file, go and delete them after, at a specific point. So anything, you can move your backup files to another place, and then after 3 or 4 days, if you haven't used them, you can go and blow them all away. So here's the thing. So how do we do this? Let's just write one that we go through. So I'm just going to change my thing over through there, and I've got one through here. So if we just go and look on my downloads folder, you'll see at the bottom there's a couple of ones called GeoJSON down here. So I can actually write a little script through here which just says anything with a star.json. Now JSON file is the JavaScript object notation, and it's just structured in a specific way, or a GeoJSON file, go and move them into this new directory. So I've made this new directory called 0.json. So if I now run this file, so I'm just going to save that now. Now I'm just going to go and find my batch file. Whoops, wrong one. If I go and find my batch file there, and it's just this copy one through that, I click it a couple of times. I'm clicking you, and you'll see a pop-up command box. Now the reason it pops up, not that bit there, not this bit over here, it'll run another little dialog box in a minute. Here comes a dialog box. Then you'll see it run down and write that script down there in there. When it's thinking about it, it's gone and got snappy on me. And it'll run that file, and then it'll close this window again after that. Now to stop that, you can actually just put an at type thing through there. Doesn't seem to be working, so we just run you again. Now it's got confused. I'm trying to do that. Just a couple, and it should do the pop-up box, and it's running. You see it's running all of those lines of code through there. And then if we go into our downloads one, you'll see that those files aren't there anymore. And if we just go up and go into the JSON file, you can see they've moved to there. So I've said specifically to move those files through there. Now, as I said, with my screenshot ones, I end up putting them into a screenshot. So what I want to do on one of my things is to move my screenshots to a screenshot plus 1 day, and then maybe a little while along. So if we just go and have a look at our screenshots folder, where's our screenshots folder? No, we don't seem to have a screenshots folder at the moment. So let's just go through and into our screenshots. We'll see some images through there. Now, one of the things that we can actually do, so that's all we're doing. We're just writing a little batch file, and as long as we run that batch file, so here I've got some images through there. Now, another little tool that you can actually use is this one called File Punter. Now, this is done by Empire, and it's a free tool. It's an auto hotkey script, and it's compiled, so therefore you can run it yourself. Now, this is for people who may not have the confidence to actually write those things. So if this one here, we're going to write a demonstration. So this one here is taking these files and it's going to move them. So if we just go and click on that, it's going to take them from the screenshots folder, anything with a star.jpg, and these ones are JPEGs, and it's going to move them into the screenshots plus 1 day. Now, first of all, I can run a simulation on this, only this little operation here, which does this one. It's not doing all the zips and all the other things and everything. It's just this one here. I can run a simulation. Now, look at this, what this does. it's now going to test that out, and it's going to create a file, just a normal text file, and says what it's actually doing. So it's giving you the actual name of the file and where it's putting it. So you can actually test that out before you can do it, and we can update the entry and say it's there. Now on here, you can select them all and run all of these scripts, like this is moving me zips and me exes and all the rest of them across. Or you can do none of them and just do one specifically, like that, screenshots to the screenshot plus 1 day. Let's just run that. Now we can do several things. We can do a simulation only, and we can do a simulation on several things that we've chosen. We can copy the files to the destination so we can keep the originals. We can move the files to the destination, or we can create shortcuts in the destination. But at this point in time, we're just going to move the files to the destination and just go run. Those files, which one did I do? I did do JPEG from there to there, and there they've gone. It's just a bit slow because of my video. So there it's gone. So if we go into the screenshots plus 1 day, and I've actually got one which reverses that, and it takes it from the screenshots plus 1 day and moves them back to screenshots. So I'm just going to run that, and it'll bring them back again. And they'll pop up shortly. Now this one you can file, you can save that, and then you can save that. So this is a really useful thing if you have a whole lot of other. You could create another file, so you can open up another one which might be doing a backup. It's taking them from your C drive and you're copying a whole lot of files onto a backup project file that's on the LAN somewhere else. It's your space, but you just want to keep those records specific to you, and you can run those ones. Oh sorry, move to destination, start. I did that one. Oh sorry, I've still got that one there. Screenshots plus 1 day to there. Now if I run that one, that should actually make it happen. There they've come back again. There's those files through there. So this is a good way to actually manage some of your backups, some of the moving things around. If you're not that confident, it's a very good simple way to actually do it, and you can actually open up and you can run a whole lot of different scenarios that you may want to run. The other thing with the backup files and those ones that we're actually doing, what I tend to use is I'm just going to hit my caps lock key, and it does this pop up through here, 34, and this says move stuff. I'm going to hit enter, and it's now going to move those files, and it's just running those scripts. So it's going to take those files from screenshots and move them into screenshots plus 1 day. If we just go back into our screenshots folder, wherever our screenshots folder was, no, that's not it. You'll see those files aren't missing, are missing because of the fact that I've moved into another one, because I've actually just got them on this little hotkey run. Now this particular program, you've actually got to have auto hotkey because it's a script, it's not a compiled program, because it allows you to add more and more things to it. So I just wanted to show you this because it's a little bit more complicated, but it's a bloody useful tool. And in this one here, you actually have default commands which are already set up in there, and then you can add your own commands, and all it's doing is it's just running a script, but you can give it a function name and you can give it a function note as to what it says. So if we run this one here, delete the old images. So if I delete these old images now, I've called it 35, and all it's doing is I've got a little bat file called delete old images. So if I just go caps locks, and it comes into here, and I think it was 35, and let's just go into that screenshots. So let's just go into screenshots plus 1 day. Actually, what I'm going to do here quickly, just to be a smarty, is that I'm going to go from screenshots to plus 1 day, and we're going to make a copy of files to the destination. So it's going to make a copy of those, and it sent them across to screenshots. And now I'm going to delete those ones. So I'm just going to go enter, and it's going to run. Sorry, I've got to hit on that one and go bugger, enter, and now it's running the script. And so those ones there will now be deleted, and they've all gone. But I've still got the old screenshots through there because that's what I did. So I can undo that one. I can go from the screenshots, the JPEGs, and copy the files. So we're going to make a copy of the files, and we're going to bring them across through here now. So it's a good way to shuffle files around. The only thing which I don't like about this at the moment is you can move and you can copy files, but you can't delete files. So the ones where I've got to clean up, I've got to use a batch file to do. But otherwise, this is a very good way of moving files around, and it's good for people who are not that confident in writing batch scripts. So it's a good start off for those sorts of things. The other one, which is really this one's a little bit more sophisticated. You can use a shortcut key to those bat files and put them on your desktop or somewhere else that you actually need to do. This one here, you can pin it to your taskbar if it's something that you use on a frequent basis. So I hope that's been of interest to you. You know, it seems that moving files around and keeping yourself organized. The nice thing with this that I would like to think is it's bespoke. It's exactly what you want to do. If you wanted a specific file called 123 projects, you can have them, and it'll only move those files. So you can be quite confident once you start doing these that it's you moving the files around where you want them or deleting the files that you specifically wanted that you could do carefully. And the best thing to do is, if you're unsure, just move a couple of files to create a dummy directory and create another directory where you want to go. Chuck a few different files in there and test them out. And that way you just keep on running the thing and see that it works. I ended up with a slip up is that I copied the path, which was C users Drake download, but I forgot the backslash, and it just was running it and it just was nothing was happening at all. And I was getting a little bit frustrated with it. But what I actually, as soon as I got that slash back in there, so again, that's where you can test these things out if you're not confident to do it. But a good way to actually manage your files on your computer, copy backups, even if you're actually pulling them across. So you actually save your files onto the LAN overnight, and then you come in. Or the other one is, I'm not too sure about copying from the cloud as such. It's best if you actually just move them all. The other one is that you can actually just make a copy of all of your files and put it into a folder, and then just move that